Welcome back to Hyperbaric Living Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Masha. Today I have with me Johannes from Clearlight Saunas. He's a co-founder and co-CEO. He founded the company when he was just 23. They provide the best saunas to Europe and Australia. Welcome to the show, Johannes.
Hi, Masha. Thank you so much. I'm very pleased to be here and I look forward to our deep dive.
I look forward to speaking with you today because Hyperbaric Living is a podcast about hyperbaric therapy and hyperbaric medicine. But we do believe that it works really well in integration with other therapies. And today we're going to talk about red light therapy. And it comes up the most, I think, as a complementary therapy to hyperbarics. So we all want to know everything about it. And I can see you sitting in your sauna. Right?
Yeah, that's I'm actually at my home at the moment. I sort of converted this infrared sauna, which is a Sanctuary 2-person, sort of our high-end version with sort of all the whistles and whistles into a bit of a podcast studio. So I got a light here, and obviously, I don't have the sauna on at the moment because I'd be sweaty. But it is really nice. It looks nice. The sound is actually great, and therefore, yeah, it's my favorite place in my home for sure.
That was actually my next question, whether the sauna is turned on or not, because I wish I could do a hyperbaric podcast inside a hyperbaric chamber, but it makes a lot of sound. So, it doesn't
I know,
work.
it'd be funny, hey? Yeah, maybe microphone technique at some point will sophisticate you that so that you could do it. But now it's on. You can see the screen has just turned on. At some point I will probably turn it off because I might get too hot. So.
And it looks really spacious. And you guys,
it is nice.
Guys who are watching the video content could see that it's quite spacious. Johannes, can you tell my listeners what is red light therapy?
Yeah, I think we just have to sort of make a really clear distinction here, because I think this is an infrared sauna, which is different to red light therapy, right? So I think essentially, although the word infrared is in both of these words, or light is essentially in both of these words, the therapy and the way it works is fundamentally different. And if you don't mind, I'd quickly elaborate on that a little bit and just set the scene. Is that okay?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, great. Okay, so I'll start with the sauna because I think that's often the easier product to explain, because people know what a sauna is. Like we have Finnish saunas, we have traditional saunas, we have steam saunas, we have infrared saunas, we have Russian banyas, which are also types of sauna. We have sweat lodges. And I think saunas have like a really, really long history of being in, the native cultures, from the ancient Indians up to obviously, the Greeks, which would use, the hot thermal bath, the Romans as well. And the goal of a sauna is to make you sweat, I think in very, very lay terms. And my credo is a little bit sweat once per day, because I really believe like sweating is so important. And most people actually don't do that nowadays due to lifestyle and due to our office environment or a home office environment. And so, the main goal of a sauna is really to raise your core temperature. It's heat stress, right? So while you sit in there and relax, it's actually getting freaking hot. And as a response, you start cooling down. With traditional saunas, it's like one oven. People there's this German word called Aufguss, which is like you pour water actually on the stove and it sort of creates vapor, and people put like different oils in there. And everyone who's been to Europe knows that this is quite a ritual. Like, if you do it in Finland or in Germany or Austria, like people celebrate it and it's great. And it's really hot and it requires a lot of electricity, but it's a great ritual. Infrared saunas are a little bit more modern. So infrared, I think, was only really identified and developed as a technology sort of in the 1970s in Japan. And then quite quickly, actually, it was used pretty much around the world. And in the beginning, it was used in hospitals, for instance, to keep newborn babies warm, when they sort of right after birth. Some of you may know that you have those patio heaters, if you're sort of sitting outside and want to have a drink or sit in a restaurant, these are also infrared heaters. Different wavelengths and certainly not therapeutic, but the technology is pretty well established. And for those that don't really know what it feels like, if you are in the sun and you sort of lie on the grass and it's one of these beautiful summer days and you feel the sun on your face and over time it'll get warm, that's the feeling of infrared, obviously without ultraviolet light from the sun, but you get the feeling from it. Another metaphor would be you sit in front of a bonfire and you sort of have the nice coziness, the warmth of a stove or an oven or a bonfire that sort of really makes you warm. That is infrared. And further research was then actually took place, and it was identified that far infrared is perfectly safe because it uses the same frequencies of the sun. if it's really high quality infrared sauna. And it really helps to raise the core temperature. So one of the fundamental things is really you develop an artificial fever, some sort of hypothermia, that's the medical term, which essentially means your body temperature, which is normally probably 36.9, depending on where you measure, goes up by a degree and a half, sometimes 2 degrees, depending on the quality of the sauna and depending how long you're in there. And that is really sort of the way infrared saunas work. And you can see, for those that have the video on, you can see these black surfaces around me. Those are heating elements that were specifically designed to create one specific wavelength of infrared. And instead of sort of having hot air, these produce infrared, which sort of makes me warm from the inside out as opposed to having hot air. So you generally have lower temperatures, 40 to 60 degrees, but the air temperature doesn't really matter so much because it's not about hot air. It's not like a traditional sauna. It's about this infrared heat really raising your core temperature effectively. And you stay in there for a minimum of 20 minutes, up to 45 minutes. And then after that, you can take a warm shower or a cold shower. Everything's the same with the sauna rituals, but it's not this steamy or this really hot air, but rather the infrared heat that warms you up from the inside out. And there are various different health benefits that are similar to a sauna, but various different ones that are also different to a traditional sauna. So that's the sauna component, which is heat therapy.
So it must be a very pleasant feeling then, because you're not really sweating like crazy, but at the same time, you're just slowly heating up, right?
I would actually say you're sweating more because you stay in there longer. But for those of you that know, when you go in a traditional sauna and you have this boiling heat, which hits you sort of, and some people actually can't stand it because it's too hot, like they get dizzy or they get headaches or whatnot. You don't have that with an infrared sauna. And yes, in the beginning, it's sort of this really nice, cozy warmness, this ambient warmth. But over time, as your body heats up, your body will start sweating, but you won't feel dizzy because it's not hot air in here, but it's rather your core temperature is sort of really raising gradually and steadily, as opposed to having this heat bang essentially coming at you. But because you're staying longer in there, your temperature tends to go up more, and because you're also staying longer in there, you tend to sweat more, because often with a traditional sauna you would leave after 5 to 10 minutes or 5 to 15 minutes if you do it extensively. So we actually observe that you do sweat more, and that's probably due to the fact that your core temperature goes up more and you stay in longer.
What are the main benefits of infrared sauna? Like, why would you even go in there?
There's some really promising research around detoxification. So in the US, for instance, it's a really big trend for firefighter centers to actually establish or to have an infrared sauna built in. Reason obviously being is that firefighters are exposed to a large number of heavy metals and other chemicals, due to the work. So cancer rates have gone up massively. There are lots of detox protocols that sort of really analyze the sweat, and I actually found that certain detoxification pathways are more effective through the sweat or through the skin as opposed to the internal organs. You have a lot of inflammation reduction, so it's commonly used, for instance, to reduce inflammation, be it on the muscle or be it also chronic inflammation, such as arthritis. You have, the hypothermia, which increases sort of the number of white blood cells. So you're sort of essentially training your cardiovascular system to that, in order to really resist the heat stress. I think all in all, it's probably more a question of, what are the benefits you don't get from an infrared sauna? And they're not many. I think, yes, heat tolerance is super important. You get your sweat in, skin health is improving. So it's lots of them. And I think, research indicates that it might be a little bit more effective than a traditional sauna. But I think, generally speaking, you should really do what you love. I think, both have their existence. A traditional sauna is more effective, for instance, when it comes to heat shock proteins, which is, one of the really hot topics. You can get these activated with infrared too, but it takes a very long time. So I think there are some fine nuances, but overall, I'd say, the hypothermic response is more intense, and the detoxification is more effective with an infrared sauna.
Decisions surrounding hyperbaric oxygen therapy can be complex. That's why here at Hyperbaric Living, we developed a special initiative, a free hyperbaric consultation, to see if hyperbarics can be a therapy of choice for you. I will answer your questions regarding hyperbarics, and you can book consultation at my website, www.drmasha.com. The link is in the podcast and video description below. I just want to add to that regarding detox from heavy metals. Apart from chelation therapy, infrared sauna is the only therapy that can help detoxify from heavy metals. All the spirulina, cilantro, and whatnot that's being advertised as heavy metal chelators, they don't work. They actually can make the situation worse.
Yep.
Whereas infrared sauna, the therapy that works, and it's been proven that it works for heavy metal detoxification and many other benefits such as hormetic effect. So it makes you stronger. The more you go in there, the stronger you become. Actually, it's the same idea as with hyperbaric oxygen therapy. It stresses your body just a little bit, so it pushes it a little bit over the limit, and then your body becomes stronger, so you can, withstand that stress next time. It's an amazing, it's great therapy. You mentioned different wavelengths, and I understand that different wavelengths have different effects. So there are different
Yes.
indications. Can you tell us how that works? And especially, can you put different wavelengths in the same sauna, or how does it work?
Sure. I think if we look back at what infrared is, it's sort of part of the invisible light spectrum, and it sort of sounds really technical and whatever, but in the end, it's invisible light, and it has a certain energy which we feel as heat. And I think if we just break it down in very very layman terms, if you look at the infrared spectrum, you have three different types of infrared. I see three different sort of spectral arrays. And one is sort of near infrared. It's a rather short wavelength, very, very energy intense, and sort of really penetrates through the upper layers of the skin. We call it sort of a deep heat penetration as well, sort of specifically efficient when it comes to muscles, joints, and sort of losing of tension, all the rest of it. So, especially as we get older, I think our muscles tend to be more sore. We tend to feel the stiffness in the back sometimes. And that's where sort of the near infrared really works quite well. We have middle infrared, which is sort of a different type of wavelength. These are all sort of given out in micrometers or nanometers. I mean, I can give the individual wavelengths if you want, but I don't really think people remember that necessarily. So middle infrared sort of penetrates a little bit less deep. It's a little bit of a longer wavelength, therefore, which means the energy is not as condensed, but it's sort of, a little bit more stretched out. It sort of still penetrates the upper layers of the skin, but it's specifically good when it comes to skin health and sort of really aiding towards that hypothermic feeling. Then we have far infrared, very, very long wavelengths, very gentle with the heat. So these heaters that I have in front of me, when I'm really close to them, I obviously don't want to burn my back, which means the far infrared is sort of a very gentle heat. It works specifically well with detoxification because it sort of really stimulates the water molecules in the body. It only stays on the upper levels of the skin. And a lot of toxins, for instance, are stored in our fat cells, in our belly fat and our back fat, wherever we have fat, and it tends to be primarily spread around the organs to protect the organs. And that's where far infrared is really, really effective, because it really sort of helps mobilize the toxins and sort of really make sure that they obviously are excreted through the internal organs and so pathways of excretion, as well as obviously through sweat. And one of the interesting studies in 2012, for instance, analyzed that sweating seems to be a more effective way for detoxification for certain heavy metals, for instance, lead and arsen, for instance. So, it just confirms exactly what you've been saying, where, detox is such a buzzword nowadays, detox teas, detox creams and whatever. But in many cases, it actually really doesn't do anything. And as you said, if there's a retoxification in the gut, for instance, and that's not being addressed, it can actually cause more harm than it does any good. And I think that's, the theory or the design behind our saunas is really have the majority of far infrared and then have, full spectrum, which we consider the combination of near, middle, and far infrared combined from the front to really have like a 360 degrees heat experience, which tends to be best for your health if you combine all of the 3-day wavelengths together.
Let's say I want to purchase a sauna. Can I choose which panels go in there, whether they far, near, medium length, or it just comes as it is?
We've done all the work for you. So the idea is really, because, infrared therapy and a traditional infrared sauna is quite a different scenario. I think if you buy sort of from a standard decoration store or home renovation store, I would guarantee you that these saunas are not actually therapeutic grade or medical grade too. Because one thing is obviously the heat technology, and sort of we call these a true wave ceramic heaters, the carbon and ceramic composition, and they are the far infrared heaters which really truly have an innovation piece around it, because we mimic the human wavelength. So the human wavelength indicates how we as human beings emit and absorb heat. And this is in line with these heaters. And that's why the majority of these heaters is far infrared, but they also give off a little bit of near infrared. And then we combine this with the full spectrum. And it's not just really just the different wavelength, it's the placement of the heaters. It's electromagnetic frequencies and electrical fields which can actually do harm if this isn't actually being considered. So the answer is no, you can't choose that, because it's quite an art. And I think over the last 22 years, we've really been trying to constantly optimize these saunas so that they really are the best. And that's part of Clearlight. Clearlight, that's our ethos. We give a lifetime warranty. We have ultra low electromagnetic fields. We have sort of superior heating technology in the 7th generation with a patent pending. We have full spectrum heaters to really make sure that we've done all the thinking for you. And just saying, I want one of these, one of that, and one of that. Again, similar with detoxification, it can probably do more bad than it can actually do good, because most people, I'm not saying they don't understand it, but this is quite a difference. It's like as if you would ask someone, can you design a hyperbaric chamber? They'll probably, yes, I can, but all the industry experience and all the aspects, and it's a health product, it's a wellness product. Like, it's not just simply like saying, oh, well, I'll just put a nail in the wall and, oh, damn it, I'm a little bit further to the left or to the right. With health appliances or wellness appliances, I would see this actually quite dangerous if people could actually just choose that. In saying that, though, if someone, for instance, doesn't have the space to fit this in, and they have a cellar or a wardrobe that they want to convert, we offer sort of DIY solutions. So it's like a kit which comes with heaters and all the electrics so that people can actually build it in their house. But again, we consult the customer in order to achieve the optimum results. So I think we see this more as a health consultation, a sauna consultation, as opposed to saying, here are the products, do what you want, because that can be misleading and often obviously also result in the fact that people aren't happy, or the sauna is too hot, the sauna is not hot enough, the heaters aren't actually arranged in a therapeutic way. And I think that's really why we say the saunas, the way they're designed, it's really with your health in consideration.
So you've done all the thinking for your customer. And you mentioned the size. And so now I am curious, how much space does it take? How much space do you need to install a sauna in your home?
Look, I think traditionally with finished saunas, it used to be, you need to have 3-phase electricity, you had a lot of space, you had to look, to think about ventilation requirements, mold buildup, and it used to be quite complex. With an infrared sauna, the great thing is the smallest unit starts at a square meter, it's 1 meter by 1 meter, and then 2 meters tall. So it's actually smaller than a wardrobe, most likely.
That's sorry to interrupt.
That's for one person.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And then goes up. Well, and then for 2 people, it sort of depends with 3 different models. They sort of are 1 meter 30 times 1 meter 25. So, I think it also isn't super big. And then you can go bigger. You can go up to 5 people, or you can build your own custom made sauna if you want with our help.
And you can have a sauna party.
You can have a sauna party, bring friends, bring family, don't drink in there, obviously. But I think, the great thing is like, you just plug it into a normal household socket. Mm-hmm. Like I have mine here in my, it's sort of an exercise room. Been having it here for the last 3 years. There's no mold boys built up. It only uses like a little bit more than a vacuum cleaner for the size that I have, right? So, in times of where electricity prices are sort of going higher and higher, it's a lot cheaper than a traditional sauna. Only needs 15 to 20 minutes of preheating time, and then you use it for 40 minutes. So in less than 1 hour, you will have had your sauna session, including a cold shower, preheating time. You can exercise beforehand. And that's, I think, really what makes infrared saunas very convenient. And you can move with them. Like, it's not like you're not building them into like an entire room, but you can actually take it with you if you want.
So you're saying you spend there 40 minutes. Can you bring something with you, like a book or a phone maybe? No, a phone probably not. Dry brushing. Techniques.
You could definitely do that. And I think One of the ideas that we really have with Clearlight saunas is that, the sauna is a sauna, which obviously is great, but it really becomes sort of a 5-in-1, 6-in-1 health system with different health modalities. So, yes, you can bring your book here. We can obviously put your phone in here, which is sort of a compartment. You can connect your phone to music, so you can meditate, you can listen to music, you can listen to an audiobook. I got a book here in front of me, a dry brush. We've just developed a salt inhaler, which you can essentially add into your sauna to convert it into like a bit of a salt cave, which is very interesting for people with long C, I think we know the word, recovery, as well as asthmatic diseases or allergy reactions, for instance, where high salt concentrations are really effective. You could potentially play a game in here. I've never done that before, but it would, I think, work in theory.
Like a board game.
Like a board game. You could play chess in here if you wanted to, but I mostly meditate, I mostly read. You could do some stretches in here. You can see I'm quite tall and I can still stretch out. We got bigger models obviously too. But I think the idea is really, if you had 1 hour per day to spend it, you can come in here, you can combine all these different health modalities. Salt therapy, we have a red light therapy, which we haven't talked about yet, but you can integrate red light therapy into the sauna. You have the sauna obviously in itself. You can do minerals and electrolytes. So I think it's a really powerful thought. It's the same with the hyperbaric camera. You can technically read in there if you wanted to.
Before we move into red light therapy, I'm a naturopathic doctor. I have to comment on dry brushing. Dry brushing is an amazing technique that helps detoxification and improve circulation. You can just Google it, dry brushing, and it's a great idea. It's like a complementary therapy to sauna therapy. Will just increase detoxification because skin is our largest organ, and we detox, and it aids in detoxification. We detoxify through skin as well. I had to comment. Sorry. Now, moving to red light therapy. You mentioned that you also have red light therapy. Tell us about it, please.
Yeah. So I think if we just reflect on the infrared sauna, it's a heat therapy device. We call it often a low therapy treatment because it requires very low temperatures and it sort of still helps you to break a sweat and to detox and to reduce inflammation and whatnot. Red light therapy is not really the real name. The real name is actually red light and near-infrared therapy, also referred to as low-level laser therapy, combines two very, very specific aspects of light. One is near-infrared at very specific wavelength, and it has to be between 800 and 860 nanometers. And red light, which is literally red light at 600 to 660 nanometers. And a lot of research sort of was really happening around low-level laser therapy. And there are more than 500 or even 600 studies that really researched this topic in great detail. And instead of heat therapy, it's light therapy. So you combine these two different wavelengths, red light therapy, or red light and near infrared, into one device with very, very specific wavelength. You have to be fairly close to it at a right intensity level. And then the photoreceptors in your skin are being activated. And the bottom line is really that your mitochondria are stimulated in a way that more ATP, adenine triphosphate, is being produced. So if we just start back, mitochondria are essentially the power plants of a body. If we need energy, it's the mitochondria and the cells that really do that. But mitochondria is one of the most studied aspects of a human body at the moment because it weighs more than just energy. It's about the psyche. It's about thyroid regulation and hormone regulations. It's about preventing immune system, about sort of preventing aging, or essentially slowing down the aging process in the skin. So it's a very, very intensely studied field. And the great thing is that red light therapy has been shown to increase ATP production in your mitochondria. And for those that don't really know what it looks like, go on Google and look for red light therapy. You can also obviously check our website out, but it's really, really intense. I don't have one here at the moment, but if I couldn't look at it, so it would be so intense. And it sort of is similar when the sun is rising. And again, it's two natural wavelengths that occur in the sun, and it's like the sunrise when the sun is still sort of not as intense, but it has this really nice and red color, which is like really soothing. And that's essentially how red light therapy works. And the benefits of an increased ATP production are literally endless. It's been shown to help with thyroid regulation for both men and women. It's been shown to increase testosterone production in men, which is not just the sex hormone. It's for men, it's absolutely critical for stress reduction, for health, for obviously bone,
having
a
drive
resilient body.
Yeah.
Exactly, for just having drive, being stress resilient, just having fun. So it's not just the sex hormone; it's the essence of sort of men, and especially when they age. So I think at the age of 30, we see a decline year by year, and at the age of around 50 to 55, it's only half of what it actually was when you were 30. So for those men that really want to do something about it, red light therapy is a game changer, as well as lifting weights in sunlight. So
I just want to add something really quickly to
yes.
testosterone. I work with couples who go through infertility, and low testosterone could be a reason, could be a root cause for male infertility. So here, simple therapy that has been shown to increase testosterone, therefore help to overcome male infertility and increase chances of conception.
Wow.
How do you use it? Like, does it come like in a little box, in a pad, or do you install it inside the sauna? Like, what's the way to use it?
Great thing is it exists in all shapes and forms. I mean, yes, we have sort of this add-on for the sauna, which is it's a more expensive and more specific module because it obviously needs to withstand the heat. An iPhone isn't made for a heat environment, but this red light therapy is really made for a heat environment, and we give a 5-year warranty on it. But you have smaller units, handheld devices, which you can take when you travel. You get bigger size, you get entire walls, and we sort of have a wide range of different sizes that are also for the non-sauna use. And it's literally, depending on the size that you order, it's sort of a normal box, probably 10 kilos, probably 60 times 30 times 30 centimeters. So DHL or another courier can actually just post it even internationally. And the way that you use it is you can either sort of stand it on the floor, sit in front of it, meditate. Obviously, you have to be naked to really make sure that your skin is sort of exposed to this type of light. And then you need to keep a certain distance, ideally 10 to 20 centimeters max. And then you can use it for probably 10 to 12 minutes, depending on how close you are. If you're closer to it, it essentially reduces the session time. If you're further away from it, you need to increase the session time. And one knows that the total output or the total input of your cells can be around 60 joules. So that's the energy the cells or the human body can consume through red light therapy. And that's why, around 10, if you're 10 to 15 centimeters away, it requires 10 minutes. So 1 minute equals 6 joules to really build up to the time. And after that, there's no harm in doing it long, but there's also no benefit in doing it because essentially your cells and your mitochondria are saturated from an energy perspective. But that means you could turn around. You could sort of use your back if you have acne or eczemas on there and, sort of your skin health actually isn't great, turn around. Or other way around, if you sort of really want to work on, on your face because, skin health isn't actually that good, or you want to energize parts of the face, do that, for instance. But ideally, if you really speak about the perfect setup, you'd have a full wall panel. Because, it's not just a topical therapy. Ideally, you want to have your entire body literally energized through this type of light. And after that, you would turn around, or you'd have a second module so that you're being sandwiched to some extent from red light therapy. And the benefits are great. Like, people always report for the first 1 or 2 weeks, they don't really feel anything because it's not like a sauna. You're not going in there, you're sweating. With red light therapy, you don't really, many people don't feel a difference straight away. But a lot of people have been saying, they're pain-free, they can exercise again more. In fact, it's been shown to increase your strength, for instance, if you do it prior to exercising, which makes sense because your body and your muscles have a lot more energy, right? So everything in the body functions more optimally, and therefore you can obviously also perform better. And I think that's how a lot of the clients are using it, but some are also just using it to help with sleep because, sleep issues are often an issue in terms of the circadian rhythm, be it late night work or not going to bed at the same time, high exposure of blue light before sleep by looking at a TV on your phone. And red light therapy can really help you with that because it is the naturals, it is the sunlight, 2 very, very specific wavelengths, obviously, and it can help you at the very morning get a lot of light exposure to really find that groove and to really help you maintain a good sleep level.
So this the effect that you're getting, like what I'm trying to understand, it's more relaxing or more energizing, or it's both?
It's more energizing.
More energizing.
Yes.
But at the same
Yeah.
time, it probably normalizes cortisol levels. So
100%.
you're sleeping better. Okay.
Exactly. But I think that's why generally it's better to use red light therapy in the morning, because it is it's LEDs, and LEDs always have a certain flicker rate, which can be, is essentially stimulating for your eye and can make you awake as opposed to make you sleepy. And it, it can mess with melatonin production, that's for sure too. And therefore in the morning is better, or obviously before or after workouts when you because you don't always have to look at it, or you don't always have to use it on your face. Sometimes you can just use it also on your calf muscle, for instance, in which case you're actually not directly exposing yourself to light. So that might be another way as well, but generally it's more stimulating, and infrared sauna has a stimulating effect too. But generally, especially when people have a cold shower or a warm shower afterwards, it helps you relax. It sort of helps you come into, out of this fight and flight mode into more a rest and digest mode, which are the terms that they use for that.
I also, I was thinking about the whole sauna, infrared sauna and red light therapy thing. And what amazes me, that a technology like that could be used for people who are suffering from chronic disease. They are at one end of the spectrum, and at the other end of the spectrum we have biohackers and people who are looking to optimize their performance. So they are already individuals who are functioning on a very high level, and it can be beneficial, to all groups of population. Are there any contraindications to this therapy?
Yeah, maybe my dream, Masha, and I'll just be quite visionary here, is like, wouldn't it be great if everyone had a hyperbaric chamber and everyone had an infrared sauna, like at home, and potentially even subsidized by health insurances or whatnot? Because I really, really believe, it helps you maintain a healthy lifestyle. And a lot of studies have really shown that. There was a sauna study. I mean, yes, it was traditional saunas. It was done over 20 years, and it really has shown that if people use the sauna 3 to 5 times a week, it reduces your all-cause mortality risk by up to 60%. And let's face it, it's not just the sauna, and it doesn't really matter, but it's a lifestyle that is being supported through the sauna use, right? And it's the same with the chamber. If you go in a chamber, if you go in the sauna, you probably are most likely also to put your phone away early and read a book instead, or you're more likely to actually, not have sweets before bed, but rather take magnesium as a supplement. I mean, I'm over exaggerating here, but I think, that's really the way I want to look at this. It's a complementary thing. It's not the holy grail, but it can really help a lot of amazing people. And I think, to come back to the question, which you have to remind me again, I get so lost in this visionary thinking that you just have to ask the question again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the question was about contraindications. Are there any contraindications to sauna therapy?
No, not when, generally speaking, not when a person is healthy, but there are certain medical conditions or certain situations in life where it's not recommended. One would be, for instance, if you're breastfeeding, or also if you're pregnant, because, if we know that heavy sweating has an effect on the detoxification and a potential retoxification, there is a risk that obviously can sort of enter the pathways to the newborn. The scientific community isn't really in agreement here. Around 50% say it's not a problem, 50% say it is a problem. So I generally wouldn't advise it, given that I studied quite a bit of detoxification. Generally speaking, if someone is getting sick, like really sick, an infrared sauna can make it worse. If you do it early enough, it can actually help you because it strengthens your immune system. But if your body is already weak and you put an infrared sauna session on top of that, it might
not a good
exactly
idea.
It might really wipe you out there. Inflammation or arthritis is an interesting one. Generally, I think we've seen that around 60 people see benefits of that. But with arthritis, there is a small sort of group of people that they can't, or where heat actually isn't the answer, but it's rather cold therapy. That's an interesting one too. We've had twins both with arthritis. One actually found the sauna super beneficiary. The other one, for the other twin, it made it worse. And this person had to use cold therapy instead. So that's another one. And I think all sort of all severe diseases around cancer or whatnot, I just really can't comment on that. I think generally, it can be a health prevention tool, obviously, but I think if someone is really severely suffering from autoimmune diseases or, regenerative diseases, then it's probably worth checking in with your MD or with your health advisor on this. But I think that's probably it for now. Low blood pressure can be a little bit of a thing because saunas help with actually reducing blood pressure. And if someone has already excessively low blood pressure, there could be different reasons for that. So that's just something to really double check on. But that's probably about it. And for most of them, there really is an amazing health response.
So for those who have low blood pressure, make sure you eat before going to sauna. Not something heavy, not a steak, but something light. To make sure that your blood sugar doesn't drop, because that combined with low blood pressure can result in not so comfortable, not such a comfortable situation. But if you've had a snack and then go into sauna, you should be fine. For other conditions like cancer, definitely consult with your oncologist, and it's much better if you have an integrative oncologist. So oncologist who really understands the benefits of the sauna, not just someone who says, no, you can't use it, or yeah, that's okay, use it. Somebody who will take a minute and think about your situation. About arthritis, I wanted to comment, quite interesting. In Chinese medicine, we have different root causes, and especially for arthritis, it's called B syndrome, and it can be caused by excessive heat or excessive cold. And I think that was the reason. So if it's caused by excessive heat, somebody was exposed to a lot of heat, or there are other, I'm not going to go into detail, they're probably going to do worse in the sauna. Whereas someone who was exposed to excessive cold, they would do pretty well in sauna. The only way to know is to check, is to try the treatment and see what it does for you. And one more thing that came to my mind is you mentioned hyperbarics and sauna. So I wanted to say that these two therapies combine really well. Hyperbarics is amazing with red light therapy, especially if it's battery operated and you can take it inside the chamber. It allows for sort of a local application of HBOT. And for those who have sauna and a hyperbaric chamber, you can go into sauna first, because that vasodilates, so your capillaries and your blood vessels will dilate. Where you go into hyperbaric chamber, the effect is the opposite. It's vasoconstriction. But since you have that vasodilation, you would allow a much better delivery of that oxygen. So these two therapies go really well together. Some people try to achieve it by going into hot baths before hyperbarics, but it doesn't work as well. And also, unless you have a filter at home, water that you're using for a hot bath is not a very healthy, water. So to say, so there are many options. These two technologies are complementary, and as you said, it wouldn't be so nice if everybody or every family, because you can. The good thing about it, you get a sauna, the whole family can use it. You get a hyperbaric chamber, the whole family can use it. If every household had those devices, we would be much healthier in so many ways, physically, but also mentally.
Yeah.
Mentally.
Yeah, and I think, I think we have a lot of customers or potential customers that always ask, hey, I have this health condition, and am I fine to use the sauna? And in most cases we say, yes, it's fine, but let's face it, it's not the holy grail. It's not gonna cure all your diseases, or it's not gonna cure all the symptoms. I mean, is it going to help you with pain relief? Absolutely. Is it going to help you with sweating? Absolutely. So there are a lot of different benefits that come with it, but I think a lot of the diseases that we see in the society nowadays are lifestyle related. And I'm not saying that I'm perfectly healthy. I'm very aware of the issues that I'm having, but I think a lot of the time, for a person, for instance, for an obese person to lose weight, that sort of have to get into exercising and walking, and often they're so much in pain that that's really difficult for them to start. And I think that's when saunas in general, but specifically also infrared saunas, can actually be a great starting point, because you're getting your body to start sweating. You sort of, it feels like a little bit of a cheat box. You're sitting in here, you're relaxing, sort of your whole body, your metabolism is actually working. It also helps you with mitochondrial health. It actually helps you with losing weight, which is bizarre because people think I'm only sweating, but it's not true. I think what happens on a metabolistic level is a lot more exciting and a lot more complex. And I think that's something that where it really made click in my head is like, we have so many modalities in our day-to-day life that really can make a difference. And to me, an infrared sauna is one of the most easiest one. But jumping, it's cold outside here in Germany at the moment, taking an ice bath out in the river on the lake, it's free as well. Yes, it might be painful, might be uncomfortable, but hey, if you've done it, you feel better. And, next time do 5 seconds longer. And, and maybe in the evening, you'll skip actually one of your cheat meals and rather have a nutritious meal. And I think I really like to think about it that way because, it's not the cure, but I think it can really enable people to rethink their journey and to build a routine about actually treating pain and some of the health conditions that they're suffering from.
I want to go back to weight loss because that's a big one, right? We
Yes.
have so many weight loss products, but so many people are still overweight because it's not just what you eat and how much you exercise. It's a combination of many things, and environmental toxins, heavy metal toxicity is a big one there. So even if we look at just detoxification and speeding up metabolism, and I'm pretty sure it affects insulin glucose metabolism. So there's, as you mentioned, metabolically, there's so many ways sauna can assist in weight loss, but it shouldn't be used as the only is the only therapy. If you're undertaking weight loss, it's both diet and exercise and going into sauna and maybe using hyperbarics. I have a really good video on that, how it assists in weight loss, and looking at environmental toxins. It's a combination, but sauna can actually speed up the process a lot, which is, another reason to use it. If people want to find you, where can they find you? They want to buy a Clearlight sauna. Where can they find you? Because there's Clearlight sauna in US, but there are Clearlight saunas in Europe. So how do they find you in Europe and Australia?
Yeah, I mean, we'd love to hear from you. You can, you have my name, so connect with me on LinkedIn or on Instagram, anytime. But I think generally, if you just Google, if you're in Europe, for instance, it's clearlightsaunas.eu for Europe. If you're in Germany, it's a different URL, but you'll find it. In the UK, it's infraredsauna.co.uk, but the clearlightsaunas.eu one is the primary one. And if you just go on google.com.au, for instance, for Australia, and you find Clearlight Saunas, you'll find the local available website. Like, I think it would be too complex if I give out all the specific URLs. But we are in Europe, we're in Australia, we're in New Zealand with partners sort of all over the world. So get in touch with us. We'll help you answer questions, help you sort of choose the right model if you're considering it. As I said, we'd love to hear from you.
And I know you take a special pride in the customer service that you have. Like, it's impeccable. I do know that. I'll have all the links in the podcast description and in the video description where to find Clearlight Saunas in Europe. And we have a special offer for our podcast listeners. It's 100 euros off the lowest selling price. So the code is Masha100. You can give that code and receive 100 euros off the selling price. And saunas are definitely worth getting. It's a piece of equipment you're going to have in your house for years to come. And I know there's very little service involved, right? So if the sauna gets installed, what happens next? The person just continues to use it?
Exactly. I mean, I think, we offer a lifetime warranty. So that's it's literally a lifetime. It's 7 years on parts and labor, and it's a lifetime on the product itself. So if you install it, they're fairly easy to install it yourselves. It probably takes 2 to 3 hours, and 2 to 3 people to help you with that. We always like to joke it's easier than IKEA furniture. So I think that's it's a bit of a joke. But obviously, if something breaks, get in touch with us. The only thing that eventually breaks is maybe a light bulb, or maybe after a couple of years, one of these heaters, although the average lifetime of a heater is around 35,000 hours of running time. That's more than 8 years straight. So I've had this sauna for 6 years, not a single thing I had to replace. But, it's a technical product, same with hyperbaric timbers. Things sometimes go wrong, same with an iPhone, sometimes there's a mistake. But, we'll be here. We've been around for 22 years. Lifetime warranty is really what we stand for.
Yeah, and you will be there because I know you're constantly developing new products and making sure that your products are up to date. Guys, thanks for listening. It was an amazing episode. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I hope you also did. As always, if you'd like to learn more about hyperbaric oxygen therapy, you can book a free consultation with me at www.drmasha.com/HBOT/. And if you'd like to reach Johannes and Clearlight Saunas, their links are in the podcast description. Until the next time, thank you, Johannes, for coming to the show. It was a pleasure.
Yay! It's been awesome, Masha. Thank you so much.